All right, so you can keep dropping in the chat if you're team cat or team dog, but today we are going to be chatting about sleep, all things sleep, the ins and the outs of sleep and how important it is for us. A couple basic housekeeping rules here. Please stay muted. We have a lot of people, as you guys know, in and out, and we just want to make sure that we have full attention. So if you could please stay muted, we'd really appreciate that. Feel free to drop questions in the chat box. We will do our best to address them. If they are related to what we're speaking about, we'll try and address them as we're speaking. Otherwise, just know that at the end, if we have time, we will address your questions as well. And then I also, like, Hannah and I were thinking about what we should open it up with, and it was like team cat, team dog, because obviously we take different sides. But then I also thought what would be kind of funny is like, what do you look like when you go to bed? Because I am not sexy, guys. I've got earplugs in, I've got an eye mask on, I grind my teeth, so I've got mouth guard in. Like, I've got an extra pillow because I have to sleep on my side. Like, I was like, oh man, I wonder what you guys look like when you go to bed. But I thought that was a pretty funny question. So if you guys want to drop that in the chat too, to get us kicking off.
Good sleep is not sexy sleep.
No, no. All right, we're gonna have Hannah kick us off here with the sleep.
All right, stay awake on me though for right now. We're gonna go ahead and talk about the basics of sleep. Okay, so I want to start off with the importance of sleep, right? So we talk about the importance of training, steps, macros, etc. And while those areas are super important, often sleep is kind of put on the back burner, right? When in reality, sleep is just as important as all of those areas of health and fitness, right? So I'm going to go into that with some key significances of sleep. I'm going to talk about restoration, cognitive function, energy, hormone regulation, and physical health. All right. So first and foremost, we're going to talk about restorative sleep, right? So, why sleep promotes restoration. Okay. So sleep is going to allow the body to repair tissues, muscles, and organs, and overall support the immune system, right? So during deep sleep, that body is going to engage in repair and growth activities, which includes tissue repair as well as cellular cleanup. So tissue repair is going to involve synthesis of proteins that are essential in aiding muscle recovery and growth, especially after following physical activity. Not just, you don't have to exercise that day, but even if you have a really stressful day, it's stress on your muscles, stress on your brain, right? It's going to help with that muscle recovery. And then, of course, cellular cleanup. Sleep is going to involve the removal of brain and body waste products that have just accumulated throughout the day, right? So when it comes to the immune system, sleep is going to support the immune system by producing those cytokines, which are proteins that basically help fight off infections and inflammation, right? And so that's why we talk about sleep and why it's so important in reducing that inflammation that you guys can have if you're lacking in that sleep, right? So second point is going to be cognitive function, right? So sleep is going to support emotional regulation, enhancing learning, memory consolidation, and overall just cognitive function, right? So quality sleep is going to be critical for problem solving and decision making. You have to problem solve and decision make on a daily basis all the time, especially if you have a higher stress job. You can't do that if your sleep is lacking, right? That's going to contribute to better focus, a better mood, and it just allows your body to handle stress a lot better when you're awake, right? Going into that third point that I was talking about, guys, with that energy conservation and replenishment, right? So sleep is going to reduce our metabolic rate and it's going to conserve our energy. Obviously, that's super important for various reasons. It also restores your glycogen levels in the brain and in your muscles, which is what we use as our main source of energy throughout the day. And so that's going to allow for better physical and cognitive performance when we're awake, right? Whether we're training or whether we're just trying to get through a day at work, sleep is going to be important in both levels, right? Going into hormone regulation, okay? So obviously you guys know, like, hormones are everything when it comes to our body, how we respond to everything, okay? So sleep is going to regulate those critical hormones, okay? First being growth hormone, okay? Essential for growth and muscle repair. And growth hormone is primarily released during deep sleep. So it's going to be released during that restorative sleep at night. Then we have cortisol, right? You guys know all about cortisol. Hey, this is our stress hormone. So it's going to decrease during the initial phases of sleep so that it allows your body to relax. And then it's going to rise in the morning, okay, to help with some of that alertness, right? Then the last one, we have insulin sensitivity. So regular sleep is going to reduce or control your blood sugar levels, keep them in check, which is going to promote insulin sensitivity, which can reduce the risk of diabetes and obesity, right? Which we all want to do that. And then the last one is going to be physical health, right? So regular sleep is linked to a lower risk of chronic conditions such as heart disease, diabetes, obesity. And so for one, during sleep, there's going to be a reduction in heart rate and blood pressure, obviously, right? Which gives your cardiovascular system a break, right? And so sleep is also going to help regulate blood pressure over time, which is in turn going to lower the risk of hypertension and related conditions. Secondly, sleep helps reduce the risk of diabetes by improving insulin sensitivity, regulating blood sugar, and preventing behaviors linked to weight gain, which are going to all be crucial for maintaining glucose or managing glucose levels. And so when it comes to obesity, sleep is going to play a powerful role in regulating body weight and preventing obesity, obviously. And so it impacts weight through your hormonal balance, your appetite control, and your energy metabolism, right? So influencing eating habits and how efficiently your body is processing the calories that you're intaking throughout the day. So those are all of the, significances of sleep. Okay, so I'm going to go into a shorter section going into the stages of sleep. You guys know we have two primary stages of sleep. We have non-REM sleep, and then we have deep sleep, okay, or REM sleep, sorry. So non-REM sleep has three little subsections, sub-levels, right? We're going to start off with light sleep. This is very initial stages of sleep when your brain activity is starting to slow. You're transitioning from being awake to going to sleep, right? It lasts a few minutes. This is that stage where, like, if you've ever fallen asleep in class or during something important and then your body like jolts up, right? And then everyone looks at you. That's that stage, right? So very, very light sleep. You felt like you barely slept at all. Then you're going to transition to deeper light sleep. Okay. So this is where your brain activity starts to slow down a little bit farther. And this is going to actually make up for 50% of your sleep time. So it takes up a good chunk of your sleep. And it's going to last about 20 minutes per cycle. And I'll go through that towards the end of this, right? This is where your body temperature drops and your heart rate starts to slow down, right? And then that last stage of non-REM sleep, you have your deep sleep or your slow wave sleep. This is that stage that is vital for physical restoration, cell repair, immune function. That's where you're getting that recovery part. This is when your brain activity is dominated by slow delta waves, which is why it's called slow wave sleep, right? This is the deepest stage of non-REM sleep, and it lasts about 20 to 40 minutes per cycle. And if you've ever woken up in deep sleep, you wake up usually feeling kind of groggy, since your brain is in that very, very deep state of rest. It kind of sucks to wake up from deep sleep. And then we go into stage 2. Okay, stage 2 sleep, talking about REM sleep, your rapid eye movement sleep. This stage is very, very distinct from your non-REM stage, and it typically occurs within 90 minutes of falling asleep. And it's going to repeat every 90 to 120 minutes. And it lengthens throughout the night, more towards morning, it starts to get longer and longer. This is where your dreaming and memory processing is going to happen. So during this stage, your brain activity increases to a level that's similar to being awake. So you're not awake, but your brain is functioning like it, right? Especially in areas when you're relating it to dreaming and memory processing and emotional regulation, right? Rapid eye movement occurs. Obviously, that's where it gets its name from. If you've ever seen a video of rapid eye movement and like the eyes are moving back and forth underneath the eyelids, it's super cool. Your body enters this state of atonia, which is temporary muscle paralysis. So you're having no muscle movements during this stage of sleep. And again, like I said before, this stage is going to play a key role in emotional processing, learning, and memory consolidation. And it usually takes up about 20 to 25% of your total sleep time. So like I said, I would take you guys through the whole entire cycle, right? So a full sleep cycle will start with your non-REM sleep and transition to your REM sleep. And it's going to take about 90 to 120 minutes. On a typical night, people are going to go through 4 to 6 of those sleep cycles, with the REM stages becoming progressively longer towards the morning. All right, so now I'm going to go into sleep needs, okay? Very short, but you guys have heard the recommended duration of sleep, right? 7 to 9 hours per night. Some of you guys get that. Some of you guys laugh at that. You wish you could get 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night, right? This is going to be your ideal range for physical, mental, and emotional health when you're an adult, right? As far as age factors go, children and teenagers usually need a little bit more than 7 to 9 hours of sleep. But that's going to be your sweet spot as an adult, depending on any sleep debt you might have. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. Consequences of poor sleep. All right. Obviously, we have short-term effects, but then we're going to have long-term effects. So short-term effects is going to be immediately how you feel the next day after you have gotten maybe a crappy night of sleep, or you just, didn't get good quality, or you didn't get a lot of hours of sleep, right? You're going to feel fatigued. You're going to have decreased concentration, mood swings. You're going to feel a little bit more irritable, maybe a little bit more emotional. You're going to have digestive issues, and it can impair your performance, especially if you're going to try to work out that next day. Long-term effects, right? You're going to have an increased risk of chronic diseases, metabolic disorders, reduced physical health and longevity, cognitive decline, and mental health issues such as depression and anxiety. Sleep is linked very, very closely to all of those things. So whether you feel them immediately or not, it's something that you need to pay attention to in terms of getting quality sleep, because you don't want to have, more risk of chronic diseases or metabolic disorders, things like that, right? So some things that we can do, in terms of improving our sleep hygiene, and sleep hygiene doesn't mean brushing your teeth before bed, right? It's that sleep quality. How well are we sleeping? Having good sleep at night. So first thing is going to be consistency. And this is probably one of the harder ones, right? It's maintaining that regular sleep schedule in terms of going to bed and waking up at the same time every single day. Now, we're not robots. You're not going to fall asleep every single night at 10 o'clock and wake up every single day right at 7, right? But trying to get your body winding down at the same time every night, getting yourself in bed, getting off your phone, having set times of, okay, this is when I eat, this is when I'm off my phone, this is when I'm getting in bed. That's going to help you set that regular schedule. Then setting your alarm up, okay, same time every single morning, right? This helps regulate your body's internal clock, and it makes it easier to start to fall asleep and wake up very naturally, which is a great feeling because you don't wake up feeling groggy anymore. Second way to improve your sleep hygiene is going to be your environment, right? Creating a restful sleep environment, that dark, cool, quiet environment, right? So ideal sleep temperature is going to be around 60 to 70 or 60 to 67 degrees at night, right? So you want it relatively cold when you're sleeping. That's going to promote the best sleep. You don't want it to be hot when you're trying to go to sleep. When we're talking about having a quiet environment, that can be either wearing, something in your ear to keep it very quiet, or having like a white noise machine to help you block out any of the outside noises. You can also take a hot bath at night, something like that, to help regulate in terms of temperature. That will help you relax a little bit, right? Third one is going to be a pre-sleep routine, right? And you guys have probably heard that a little bit before, but developing a relaxing pre-sleep routine to wind down, which can be anything that you want it to be: journaling, reading, taking a warm bath, right? You can practice stress relief techniques that we talked about, a few weeks ago: mindfulness, meditation. You can even do breathing exercises at night to just kind of promote muscle relaxation, just to help your whole body relax and in turn fall asleep faster, right? So doing things that promote stress relief, and or something that you enjoy, whatever it may be to help you wind down is going to be huge in having a good night's sleep, right? And making that a routine, again, making it part of that consistent bedtime routine. And then you want to limit stimulants, right? I mean, that should be obvious. No one should be drinking a cup of coffee before you go to sleep. Try to reduce your caffeine, any nicotine, and then heavy meals close to bedtime. You don't want to be digesting a big meal right before you go to sleep. And then with that stimulants, limit your screen time, right? So again, trying to minimize exposure to screens before bed due to that blue light affecting your melatonin production. If you have an iPhone, you could put it on night mode or night shift, whatever it's called, and it basically just makes your screen yellowish orange, and it reduces that blue light coming out of your phone. So it helps you a little bit. And then I'm going to go into lastly, healthy sleep practices, kind of what I just talked about, exercising regularly, right? Regular exercise is going to promote better sleep, better deep sleep. But of course you want to try to avoid it close to bedtime. Again, along with those stimulants, in an ideal world, you want to avoid it close to bedtime. In an ideal world, you want to get it in the morning, when you have the most energy, so that your body isn't in this alert state when you're trying to go to bed and wind down, right? A balanced diet, obviously eating a balanced diet and having meals at the same time throughout the day is going to be super important. And again, you want to avoid having any spicy or heavy foods late at night close to your bedtime. They're going to just disrupt your digestion. Your body's trying to digest. You're not going to be able to get a good night's sleep when your body's trying to do 1,000 things at once, right? And then lastly, stress management, right? So chronic stress can negatively affect sleep quality and contribute to weight gain. So you want to practice those stress reducing techniques, such as the mindfulness, the meditation, the deep breathing exercises before you go to bed to promote healthy sleep, right? You want to do everything you can to have a great night's sleep. So yeah, those are just some of the basics of sleep. And now I'm going to pass it off to Nikkiey.
Thanks, Hannah. Thanks for kicking us off. I want to know from you guys, you could drop it in the chat. What is one or two crucial things in your sleep routine that have helped you get better sleep? I love to hear from other people because I'm still working on optimizing my sleep. So drop it in the chat. I'm interested to hear about that sleep routine. Okay, we're going to go into the nitty-gritties of fat loss and how sleep is directly correlated with reaching your goals. All right, hormone regulation. And this is something that you guys can kind of put into practice and get curious about. So sleep affects your hunger hormones and your metabolism hormones, right? Including your, I'm gonna ask you guys to just mute if you don't mind. Sleep affects your hormones. So your hunger hormones, ghrelin, which stimulates your appetite, and leptin, which signals satiety, right? So which signals you being full. So if we are not getting appropriate amount of sleep, they can be affected. So in the morning, if you've had, a rough night of sleep, if you're sleep deprived, we can have higher levels of ghrelin, which is going to tell your body that you're hungry, right? I want you guys to think about this the next time you wake up and you're like, oh, I just didn't have that great of a sleep. Like, are your hunger cues a little bit different? Do you feel different? Are you craving different food, right? I think it's really important to get curious with our bodies and see, if one thing correlates with the other. So it also can cause increased hunger and cravings for high calorie foods. Another way that it works directly with our fat loss is insulin sensitivity. So if we have an adequate amount of sleep, it helps us maintain our insulin sensitivity, which is crucial for our glucose metabolism. Poor sleep can lead to insulin resistance. We don't want this because then what's going to happen is we're going to have increased fat storage, right? Another thing that can happen is altered fat storage. So changes in how the body actually holds on to fat, potentially leading to increased visceral fat. So that is, the fat around the belly and the internal organs. The one that is a little more detrimental to the health. So we want to make sure that we are focusing on sleep for more reasons than just getting 7 to 9 hours, right? One other way is that it affects your training and your recovery. So if you're not training optimally and you're not recovering optimally, that's going to hinder you reaching your goals as well. So, you know, think of a night that you didn't get a great sleep and the next morning you wake up and you try and hit that workout and it just feels a little bit harder, right? It decreases, a poor night of sleep can decrease your overall energy expenditure and reduce our physical activities, which can impede our fat loss process and our efforts. Exercise recovery, Hannah touched on this just a little bit, just with recovery of the muscles, but adequate sleep supports recovery from exercise. It helps recovery from external stresses. It helps to optimize our performance, and it supports muscle repair, which builds our muscles, which makes us be able to lift stronger lift a little bit more next time. That hypertrophy, right? The recovery there, which is also important for fat loss because, you know, the more lean muscle we have on our body, the more our metabolism is increasing and the more fat loss we will see. So making sure that we're focusing on our sleep for also our training and recovery is really important too. So let's talk about quality versus quantity. You know how you can sleep for 8 hours, but just not really feel that rested because maybe you woke up sweating, or maybe your husband's snoring, or, you just kind of tossed and turned all night. We got to also pay attention to how our sleep quality is. What can we do to optimize our sleep quality? And getting what Hannah was talking about, that slow wave sleep and that REM sleep, which are really important for not only our physical recovery, but also our mental capacity, our cognitive function, all of those things. While I'm talking about deep sleep and REM sleep, I'm just going to touch on alcohol a little bit here. So if any of you have, if you have a glass of wine a couple nights a week, and then you decided to take like a dry January, or like, for instance, this challenge, you're taking the challenge to not be drinking, and you've noticed that your sleep, your dreaming is a little bit more vivid. Your body's catching up on its REM sleep. It's going into deeper REM sleep, because what happens when you drink alcohol, interesting enough, is your body gets way less deep sleep. It gets way less REM sleep. So you're not getting that recovery. So that is another reason why, we want to limit the alcohol to see progress, and also just for cognitive function and feeling good the next day and fully rested. And that might be, I used to have where, even you say one glass of wine, like I'm not hungover the next day. And I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this, like you're not hungover, but you just don't feel optimal. Anyone else? And that's because you did not go into your full REM sleep and the cycles that Hannah was talking about before. So another thing to touch on there. All right, we're going to go into, I'm going to pass it back over to Hannah. We're going to go into circadian rhythm, which is super important, and plays into our sleep and how we can adjust and optimize our circadian rhythm.
Yeah, so while I'm going into this, I would love for you guys to drop in the chat box if you've ever heard of circadian rhythm, if you're familiar with it. Okay, so circadian rhythm is often referred to as our body's internal clock, if you've ever heard that saying, right? So it's going to be the internal process that regulates the sleep-wake cycle and repeats roughly every, 24 hours, right? And it plays a crucial role in regulating various physiological processes, right? So it influences sleep patterns, release of hormones, body temperature, and other vital functions, ensuring that they align with day-night cycle, right? It regulates nearly every single biological process in the body. It is super, super important. And your sleep is directly related with circadian rhythm, right? So its impact on sleep and wakefulness, right? So it's going to have an impact on the sleep-wake cycle, right? So circadian rhythm is going to help determine when we feel sleepy or when we feel alert, right? So it's going to make sure that we are feeling alert and active during the daytime when we're supposed to feel alert and active. And then it's going to make sure that we're feeling restful and, we're getting recovery at night when we're supposed to feel restful and recovered. But also you have disruptions, such as changes in your routine. If you work the night shift, if you have jet lag, or if you're having like screen exposure at night, those disruptions can lead to insomnia or excessive sleepiness, which is going to affect your overall mental and physical health. So that sleep wake cycle is super, super, super important, right? It's also going to affect your sleep quality. So a well-aligned circadian rhythm is going to support restorative sleep, obviously, because if you have a well-aligned circadian rhythm, you're going to be getting tired and sleepy when you're supposed to be, right? And that's why we talk about going that consistent bedtime. That's going to help with your circadian rhythm, going to sleep at the same time, waking up at the same time. When you wake up, right, you're going to feel alert, right? As opposed to if you have a misaligned circadian rhythm, that's going to impair your sleep quality and your overall health. And I'm going to pass it to Nikki so she can take you guys through the bulk of circadian rhythm.
All right, guys. So talking about the light exposure, and one thing I think that's really important to note with the circadian rhythm is the effects of melatonin on circadian rhythm. So if we're, and the reason why we hone so much on, you know, turning off your phones at night is light affects melatonin, and melatonin is your sleep hormone, you know, which wakes you up, has the ability to wake you up and then also make you tired. So what's really important is that when we get up in the morning, we have light. And the best kind of light that you could have would be natural light outside. So I get up too early. The sun is not up yet. So I have a little machine that I use. It's kind of one of those sunset sunrise alarm clocks. It's called Hatch, I believe. And so when my alarm goes off, the sun rises, the colors come up and wakes me up. Ideally, if you're waking up with the sun and the sun is already up, what is recommended is to go outside and just get your eyes into the, you know, outside so that you get some of the sun rays into your eyes, not directly looking at the sun. Don't directly look at the sun, but just making sure you're getting outside to get some of those photons in, right? And that naturally wakes your body up. It tells you it's time to rock and roll, to get going. Like we said, the caveman times, it was, everything was ruled by the sun and then the sun setting because they just didn't have electricity, right? Everything's different today. So what can help you with your circadian rhythm and the lights is not checking your phone first thing in the morning and getting some sunlight. Getting outside if possible. We talked about if it's too cold or if the sun just isn't up yet, using some sort of artificial light. I have heard good things about like the happy light. And like I said, I use that sunrise light machine. And then one other thing that I've been doing that I found to be helpful is using blue light blocking glasses during the day. You know, us coaches are on our computer a lot with the check-ins and Zoom calls and things like that. And it's just not a natural state for us to be in, to be looking at these blue lights all day. So using some blue light blocking glasses can be helpful. Another thing too is that if you're feeling that afternoon lull, you know, that I don't know if you guys ever experienced that post-lunch kind of tiredness, you know, it might be from the food you're eating, but sometimes it can be from a little bit of a melatonin spike. So going outside, getting into the sun, taking a little 10-minute walk after lunchtime can stop that melatonin production. So just as we would stop that melatonin production, we don't want to be using lights right before bed because your body wants to be producing that melatonin so that we're getting ready for sleep. And if we're in front of the TV, we're in front of the computer, on our phones, the lights overhead are on, and that's signaling to our bodies that the sun is up, right? That makes sense. So really like big lights that are above us, we want to turn those off and keep low lights on. If you can use different hues of lights, that can be helpful too. So not blue light, but more towards the orange and the reds, that can help too before bed. Yeah, blue light blocking glasses are awesome. So yeah, we definitely want to make sure that we are utilizing the tools that we can. I know we're all in different states, we're all in different sunrise times, but if you can optimize that, that can really, really be helpful. And a well-aligned circadian rhythm. Oh wait, here we go. Sorry, lost my place here on my little notes. Yeah, here we go. Sorry. So yeah, making sure that we're keeping our sleep schedules regular. If you're dealing with shift work, things like that, purchasing some of those light machines can really be helpful. And using different things that can support you there. All right, so I just talked a little bit about the artificial light, excessive use of screen emitting the blue light before bed. Sleep tracking devices. Do you guys use any sleep tracking devices to see what's going on with your sleep? I used to use a Whoop, or do you guys use a Garmin or Apple Watch or anything like that? Yeah, it can be really, really interesting, right? To see your phases and your stages of sleep and how you're going in and out of sleep and what affects you. I saw someone on the chat say that they see that their heart rate goes up when they've had alcohol. You know, what's interesting is that alcohol the next day, your heart rate will be up the whole next day too, as your body is detoxing as well. So that's really interesting. So for some people, it can provide insights to sleep patterns. And then I also have a couple babes where there was a little bit of sleep anxiety around it, right? Like the watch was telling us in the morning that maybe we weren't getting the best sleep, and it was telling us that we weren't in the green. And sometimes that can be a little bit, can throw us off. So I feel like it is on an individual basis if sleep watches work for people. If it's something you haven't tried, I definitely would recommend trying it if you have access to one of them, just to see kind of what's going on and how your recovery is. All right. I'm going to touch on, so someone was saying that I saw in one of the chats that they were talking about, you know, having to get up to use the bathroom. That wakes us up a lot, right? So if you've seen Dr. Cabral's calls, he's got the 3-2-1 method. You guys are familiar with that. So the 3-2-1 method is trying to stop your food intake 3 hours before bed, if possible. And then 2 hours before bed, trying to stop your water intake or your beverage intake so that we aren't up all night using the bathroom, right? And then 1 hour before bed, trying to bring down that blue light consumption. Another thing too that I like to touch on blue light is a lot of people, we feel kind of relaxed when we're watching a Netflix show or we're like scrolling on our phones, but we don't know is that that's actually increasing our cortisol looking at these things, right? There's a reason why we get addicted to shows, because they're like dramatic and they're exciting and we want to watch them again. So we feel like we're zoning out, and we might be zoning out, but really internally our stress levels are heightening. So just know that be mindful with what you consume visually, emotionally before bed as well, because that all plays into your quality of sleep. So, all right, Hannah, kicking it back to you to talk about some food recommendations for sleep.
All right, guys, let's talk it over. So let's talk about food, the fun stuff. Okay. So some things that are going to help with your sleep. So first and foremost, complex carbohydrates, right? You guys know we have simple carbs, we have complex carbs. Complex carbs are going to take a little bit longer to digest. Okay. They're, you know, as opposed to simple carbs, they're going to digest pretty quickly and spike your glucose pretty fast, right? So that's going to include a small portion of complex carbs like a whole grain bread or oatmeal, kind of close to when you're going to sleep. Another one is tart cherry juice. I personally love this one. I make a little mocktail at night with it all the time. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of like Olippops or, you know, poppy drinks or whatever it may be. I'll usually add some tart cherry juice to those. Put it in a cute little wine glass so I feel fancy, and that helps naturally boost your melatonin levels. And I always get a really good night's sleep doing that. Super, super helpful. And it tastes really good if you like cherry. Third one is going to be almonds or walnuts or any type of fat, honestly. Having a nice healthy fat. I always say like a tablespoon of nut butter before bed. That's going to help. They're going to contain magnesium, right? And so there's going to be sources of melatonin. They're going to aid in muscle relaxation and getting into that deeper sleep cycle. It's also just going to help lower your blood sugar so that it's not spiking. You know, if you have a tendency to wake up at 2, 3, or 4 in the morning and you're not wanting to wake up at that time, usually it could be due to like some sort of spike in your blood sugar. So having that healthy fat before you go to sleep can be super, super helpful. Another one is bananas. So bananas are going to be rich in potassium and magnesium, and they're going to help relax overstressed muscles and provide a good source of, again, a complex carbohydrate. When they also help with muscle cramps too. And something that Nikki actually told me right before the call was that most of the magnesium is in the banana peel, which usually we don't eat, right? So they have ways of, incorporating that, whether you boil it or whatever it may be. But bananas are awesome, especially if you struggle with anything like a, restless leg syndrome, whatever it may be. Definitely try to incorporate those in there. Next one is kind of more popular, right? You guys have heard of just taking in like an herbal tea. So sipping on a caffeine-free, obviously, tea such as a sleepy time tea. I love sleepy time tea, chamomile or peppermint to just kind of help relax your body and your mind before you go to sleep. And then last one I kind of touched on in the beginning, guys, is just to avoid, heavy meals and caffeine, just to keep your body in that restful state and not be either in an alert state or be in a, having to digest a large meal. Especially if you're a person who struggles with something like acid reflux, GERD, or heartburn, stopping eating earlier can help a lot, because I have dealt with that as well, and it can keep you up at night if you're in a lot of discomfort. So those are just a little bit of food recommendations there. Kind of transitioning from food, we're going to go into supplements, unless Nikki wanted to add anything on top of the food here.
No, that looks good. Yeah, I had the one client that I trained and she struggled with cramps every single night. And once she started eating a banana every day, she doesn't get cramps anymore, which is awesome. So that might be something to implement in your diet. And like you said, I was listening to a sleep doctor and he recommended boiling banana peels and making kind of like a banana juice. And apparently that can put you into a nice, cozy, restful sleep as well. So if anyone tries that out, you'll have to let us know.
Yeah, if you're struggling with sleep, I mean, doing anything to help, right? Trying anything. So we're going to go into supplements, right? Okay, so when it comes to supplements for improving sleep, there are several that are commonly used and considered effective, right? While I'm going through these, I would love if you guys drop in the chat box any supplements you use that you really love and that help you. It is important to remember that supplements should be used as part of a broader approach and not just the sole thing that you're using to have good sleep, right? I mean, we've gone over several things that you should focus on to have good sleep. Supplements are just kind of added on to that for a little bit of a bonus help. So here are some of the most popular and researched sleep supplements. Me and Nikki are going to go through those. I'm going to start off. First one is going to be melatonin. I think literally everybody has heard of melatonin, right? Melatonin is a hormone that's actually naturally produced in your brain, and it helps regulate your sleep-wake cycle that I talked about earlier, right, with circadian rhythm. It's often called your sleep hormone because melatonin levels will rise in the evening as it gets dark, so that it signals to the body, hey, it's time to prepare for sleep. Let's get ready for bed. And then also it's going to decrease in the morning with your exposure to natural light, which is why I say, go outside when you get up and just like look into the like sky, right? Like Nikki said, don't look into the sun, but like look into the sky, and like that's just going to help, get that alertness and signal to your body, hey, time to get up. Which melatonin helps with that, right? So supplementing with melatonin can help adjust your internal clock. And it's especially useful for like shift workers or those experiencing jet lag. If you have like a delayed sleep phase disorder, or if you struggle with insomnia, this is going to help with that a little bit. So as far as dosages go for melatonin, this is one of those ones that you definitely want to start with the lowest dose and increase if needed. So anywhere from starting with 0.5 milligrams and maybe working your way up if you need to, anywhere to 5 milligrams, right? You don't want to take too much melatonin. Obviously, taking a little too much can hinder your REM sleep. So you want to make sure you are starting on the lower dosage side. And you want to take it about 30 to 60 minutes before bedtime. So, moving on, second one I want to talk about is valerian root. Maybe you haven't heard of it as much. But valerian root is an herb that's used for its, sedative properties, right? So it's thought to increase GABA, which is a neurotransmitter that promotes relaxation and reduces nerve excitability, right? And so this mechanism may help ease anxiety and actually fall asleep at night. So a lot of the benefits, it's going to promote sleep onset, obviously, right? So helping reduce the time it takes to fall asleep, especially if you're one of those people who lays in bed and just, stresses, or you have all these thoughts running through your head, you feel like you can't fall asleep. So it'll make it beneficial for you or anyone who struggles with insomnia. It's going to improve your sleep quality. So some studies have suggested that valerian root can enhance your overall sleep quality so that you're increasing your deep sleep and reducing those nighttime awakenings, right? It can help reduce anxiety and stress, which I talked about a little bit. It has mild sedative properties, which can alleviate anxiety and stress that interfere with sleep, whether it's keeping you awake at night or it's waking you up throughout the night, right? Again, with the dosage, anywhere from 300 to 600 milligrams of valerian root extract taken anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours before bed. And again, just like the melatonin, you want to start with a lower dose and work your way up. Last one I'm going to talk about is going to be chamomile. So I kind of talked about that in, like, you've heard it in tea form, right? It's an herb and it's known for its calming effects. Commonly, like I said, you'll find it in teas. It contains antioxidants like apigenin, which is an antioxidant that it binds to specific receptors in your brain, and that binding can lead to that sedative effect and reduce anxiety, which is going to ultimately promote sleepiness. Benefits similar to the valerian root, it's going to promote that sleep onset. So it's going to help individuals fall asleep a little bit easier, which makes it a popular choice for those who are struggling with insomnia or occasional sleeplessness. Secondly, it's going to improve your sleep quality, right? So some studies suggest that chamomile can enhance your overall sleep quality. Again, getting more restful, deep sleep and reducing waking up throughout the night consistently. And then it can help reduce anxiety and stress again. It has very calming properties. If you've ever drank any chamomile tea, I used to take melatonin that had chamomile in it as well. It can help alleviate anxiety and stress, which are common barriers to having good sleep, right? So the more you can promote relaxation, it can create a more productive or, conducive environment for falling asleep. Again, with dosage, 200 to 400 milligrams there of the chamomile extract, or you can have 1 cup of chamomile tea before bed. And I'm going to let Nikki take it away with the rest of the supplements.
Perfect timing. Someone just dropped in about the different types of magnesium, which I wanted to touch base on. Love magnesium. I use magnesium. So there's a couple different kinds. If you guys are going to go out and look for some magnesium, here, I'm just going to go over the couple different kinds and what they're used for. So just take note if this is something that you are interested in looking to use and implement in the future. So the magnesium that is most recommended for sleep is going to be the glycinate. Okay. So that is one that I do use before bed. I do find that it's really helpful. I start with the lowest dose on the bottle, right? And then I have to work my way up if I need it. There is magnesium citrate. Magnesium citrate is used, and Caitlin mentioned this. It's used more for GI and for constipation. So that will help with a little more regularity, more GI regularity. I do find that the citrate, there is a brand called Calm. I do find that the citrate can also be very relaxing and help me sleep as well, but I do find the glycinate works better. If you are going to move forward with using a citrate, I know this is a little off topic, but if you're going to be using it for anything GI, I would just definitely start with the lowest dose on that one. Yeah, I love Calm too. And then another one that I wanted to touch base on is magnesium threonate, which this one crosses the blood-brain barrier and can really help with anxiety. It helps with cognitive function. This is one that maybe could be implemented in the later of the afternoon. Like if you struggle with your cortisol spike later on in the afternoon, right? That one could be one of those. And then taking the glycinate before bed. Someone pointed out, you know, the Equilife sleep supplement too. That one's a great one to look into as well to help you support there. So just knowing that if you are looking for a magnesium supplement, there are different kinds. Definitely talk to your doctor, talk to your coaches, and make sure you are choosing the right one for whatever symptom is specific to you. L-theanine is an amino acid, and it's actually found in tea leaves. Sorry, I'm going to answer this. What was the last one you just said for anxiety? I'm going to drop that in the chat for you. So L-theanine is an amino acid found in tea leaves. Actually, matcha. So green tea has it, but matcha has like way more, like a higher amount in it. So if you're looking for something midday to kind of relax you, but also give you like a little bit more of like an uplift, matcha is a great option. They also make L-theanine in like caps and other styles of supplements. So it helps to improve your sleep quality without causing tons of drowsiness. So that can also help with anxiety as well, and just bringing down your overall central nervous system. That one's recommended 30 to 60 minutes before bedtime as well. And the last one I'm going to touch on, which can be blended into other supplements as well, but tryptophan. You guys know, after eating a bunch of turkey on Thanksgiving and you're so tired, tryptophan's in turkey. So it's amino acid that the body uses to produce serotonin and melatonin. It can help by supporting the production of those sleep regulating chemicals. I will say with this supplement, important, very important with any supplement to contact your healthcare provider. But with tryptophan, it can interact with other antidepressants and medications that affect serotonin. So just making sure that you're speaking with your healthcare provider if you are looking into those supplements. And the recommended dosage for that is going to be 500 to 1,000 milligrams taken just before bedtime. So a couple things to consider. Hannah's going to go over when dealing with supplements.
Yeah, so I'm going to go over some things to consider. So like Nikki said, first and foremost, make sure you do consult a healthcare provider. We are not doctors. I'm not going to tell you what to take. I want to make sure that your doctor agrees with it as well. So before starting any new supplement, make sure you talk to a healthcare provider, especially if you do have any underlying health conditions or you are taking other medications, like Nikki said. Secondly, quality and safety, right? So choose supplements from reputable brands, not just like your bulk supplements that you can get at any store or whatever it may be, right? You want to check for quality certifications. Not all supplements are created equal. Quality can vary. Quality is super important when it comes to absorption. If you're taking a low quality supplement, you're probably wasting money, right? So you want to make sure you're putting your money well spent there. And then individual response, guys. Supplements can affect individuals very differently. Not everyone's going to respond to everything the same. So it may take some trial and error to figure out what works best for you. We listed out 100 things, right, that you can try for sleep. It's not going to work for every single person, but try to figure out what works best for you. All right. So one question we wanted to ask, guys, before you all hop off the call was, what is one thing you want to focus on moving forward to help with your sleep quality? Whether it's something we talked about here or something you've learned outside of this call, we'd love to hear that before you guys hop off.
And definitely touch base with your coaches if you are struggling with your sleep. There's a lot you can do with your nutrition, your exercise programming, you know, everything that we've touched base on. And it's very individualized. So the information that we shared with you, yes, it's a lot, but just know that we're not expecting you to implement all of this. That would not be a good idea, right? We pick and choose and figure out what works best for you. So speak with your coach if you need a little bit more of an individualized program moving forward, like as far as your sleep, or you need recommendations. All the WarriorBabe coaches are here to support you. Dog person, love it. We love bananas. Yep.
Guys, if you make a tart cherry juice mocktail, take a picture of it and put it on Facebook or something, or send it to your coach. It's like my favorite thing to do. It's such a good routine. Like I don't live without it.
Some of you guys. Thanks for showing up on Halloween. Yeah, thanks for showing up on Halloween. Do you want to answer that one on sleep gummies? Have you tried sleep gummies?
I have tried melatonin in gummy form. So it depends on the sleep gummies, I guess, whatever you're using. I like the melatonin and chamomile gummies, but again, I try not to take too much melatonin. So again, it depends on what works best for you. I'm not a fan of most supplements in gummy form because they don't work as well. They're not as concentrated. So, oh, CBD, yes, CBD is actually great. Those kind of sleep gummies. Thought we were talking about melatonin. Yeah, CBD can be really awesome for you if you struggle with sleep. Again, everything is individualized, so it's just a matter of trial and error and figuring out what works best for you. What is in your dark cherry? Oh my gosh. So I do an Olipop. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it. It can be anything at all. Olipop or poppy drink. And then I just eyeball it, tart cherry juice, and then I do some lime with it. Call it a night. It's so good. It's so good.
I'm gonna
You will
try
be
that. I've never tried dark cherry juice, but I need it.
it's so good. I do the cherry juice concentrate, so it's like it's thicker.
Okay,
It's not just like regular cherry juice.
nice.
It's awesome.
All right, guys, thanks always for participating in your wellness journey. We love having you here. Thanks for all the questions. And contact your coach if you got any further questions, guys, okay? Happy Halloween, you guys. Go
Bye,
Team
guys.
Dog.
Team Cat.
Adios, guys.
Bye.